So I'll let that play for a little bit.
Should I tell everybody that I'm going to do an intro?
Nah.
Why don't you just come on with it?
They
Come on with it.
They know now.
Sean's going to start fading right now.
Welcome to Only the Greatest Podcast, where we explore the vital connection between fitness and success in all areas of life. And I truly believe that.
Yes.
It's definitely connected.
That's right.
We are your hosts, Daryl, Sean, Phil. Special guest we're not going to introduce yet. And our goal is to help you become the greatest version of yourself. And we do that through two different show types. Every Friday, we'll come to you with a full-length episode that may or may not include a guest. And on Tuesdays, special, you'll get a little nugget of knowledge that you can immediately implement in your health and fitness journey. Sean's turn.
If you happen to find any value in this show, all we ask of you is to leave a quick review and mention specifically what helped you out. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review in the comment or in a comment.
The one and only sponsor of this show is ourself, OTG Fitness.
Only the great.
That's right, which is a private personal training gym located on the south side of Houston in Webster, Texas. You can find more information about OTG Fitness by visiting otgfitness.com or searching OTG Fitness on any social media platform. And today is Friday, so we'll get into this thing. Daryl, you want to introduce our guest here?
So it's Friday, but it's not the 13th.
It's
which
not.
is kind of disappointing.
But it is Cinco de Mayo.
It is Cinco de Mayo, which is, I guess, better than Friday the 13th,
A little
right?
bit.
I think
Little
so.
bit.
Cinco de Mayo, what is it? That represents what? Mexican independence?
Yes.
Mexican Independence Day?
Cinco de Drinko.
Congrats to them for becoming independent.
Yes, sir.
Here in America, we love it. Yeah. Here in America, at least me, I love independence.
Yes.
For individually and nationally, right?
Freedom's great.
Yeah, freedom's great. If you be independent, make your own rules, and do your thing. That's how I roll, man. So we demoed the new intro today, and I like it.
You like it? What do you think?
I like it. I think it's something that I will memorize over time.
Yeah, we're all going to have to work on it.
Not have to read it anymore, but that was the first time. So Chris got to be a part of that. As the listeners on YouTube can see, we have a very, very special guest on the show today, a gentleman by the name of Chris. And I'm not going to go any further than that. I'm going to let Chris finish introducing himself. Chris, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, what do you do now? Is there anything that you just need to say right up front? And then we'll get into the conversation, man.
Gotcha. The quick version. My name is Chris Vandagriff. I'm a professional disc golfer. I am sponsored by Innova Champion Discs. I own the Gorilla Disc Golf Shop over in Seabrook. We have a website, Gorilla Disc Golf Online, and we run events, et cetera, around the Houston area. Professional disc golf sanctioned disc golf tournaments, the real deal.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
So my question is, one question is, I am not super familiar with how do you become a professional? Do you have to have a certain amount of points or wins, or how does it?
Gotcha. So great question, and I'm really glad that you asked that.
Yeah.
I remember I saw back on, it was like a Judge Judy or something, and there was a guy on there claiming to be a professional disc golfer, and the judge said, how do you become a professional disc golfer? And the answer then was, well, you just sign up in a pro division.
Yeah. So you sign up for
a pro too.
Well, that's not the correct answer then. It may have been, but
That's a crazy specific Judge Judy episode.
It was Judge Judy or the other guy, one of them.
Great show, by the way.
I remember watching this going, no, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
That paints us in a bad light. So the qualifications, first off, to become a professional disc golfer in the Professional Disc Golf Association, similar to the PGA, we have the PDGA, right? That's our deal. Our governing body. You have to, one, compete in a professional division and finish well enough to cash. Typically they pay out the top 40% of the field.
Okay.
10 players, top 4, et cetera, right? Now, we also have a player rating, which is equivalent to, say, a handicap in traditional golf, where a scratch golfer in traditional golf is equivalent to 1,000 rated disc golfer. Now, in disc golf, the one stroke comes out to between 7.5 and about 10 points per stroke. So 1,010 golfer would be a -1 handicap. A 990 golfer, which was my highest achievement, is a +1 handicap, that kind of deal. So to be a legitimate professional disc golfer, one, you have to have played in a professional division and cashed in that division, and then
top
your
40%-ish.
Top 40% of that event taken the monies. Now I'll add here that amateurs can play in professional divisions, and they can opt out to take merchandise in most, except for the highest level of events. Excuse me, but played in an event and cashed, and then your player rating has to be over a certain number. For a men's advanced division, which is the highest amateur men's division, a 970 and above player who has taken cash is considered a professional and cannot play in any other division. So that's the nuts and bolts behind it.
Super cool.
Wow.
Yeah. The short version is that you have to be good enough to cash, or else you're just donating your money. So that's the short version. You know, hey, I'm a pro.
I thought it was just a rating. I thought it was just a rating thing. I didn't know about the cashing in an event.
There's a document on the PDGA site that says pros playing AM, and like me, even having been a professional for 13 years, if my rating is low enough, I can play in an amateur division. So there's
so you're not a professional forever. You got to keep it up. Like you got to.
You would have to be reclassified to play in certain divisions. Now, the ratings requirements for a pro that has taken cash to play in these amateur divisions is like really, really low. So you would have to really, really tank for a long time. And there's a stipulation that you can't play, any pro that's taken cash can't play in AM Worlds or AM World Doubles or some other big amateur events, that kind of deal. You can't play the majors, they call them.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you would have to do really poorly for a really long time to move back.
To ever be able to go down and sweep the field.
That probably is pretty uncommon, I would imagine.
Right. It is, but with age that comes, age, not competitive nature, age, participation levels. Yeah. Some people they play for a while and then they don't play for a bit, then they get back in. And, that's to avoid people getting frustrated too. If I haven't played for 6 or 8 years, and then I want to get back and play and I'm donating my money, hey man, let me, give me a chance to win something here. So they've taken, the PDGA is pretty cool. They're a pretty great organization, pretty great to have as a governing body. There are some pros and cons. There's some things that people would argue that they could do better. I'm a proponent of the PDGA in the aspect of these guys have been doing something about it for a long time. They've been doing something, and then they've while the system may not be perfect, it is a system that's been in place for a bit that we can rely on. So
and that's constantly improving.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've made huge strides in the last few years. Namely, so I'm a tournament director also. I just ran the Texas State Disc Golf Championships. It was a Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series event here in Houston. We utilized 9 courses. Had 750 players from all over the world. A lot of Danish and Finnish presence were here. People from all over.
Interesting.
As a tournament director, it used to be very difficult to run a tournament. You had to know a bunch of spreadsheets. You had a bunch of manual labor, writing things down, filling out scorecards, and sorting, and blah, 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 blah. They have went digital with almost everything that makes my life a ton easier. So hats off PDGA, big props, man. Shout out to them. They have made some fantastic improvements that have made the lives of the tournament directors easy. So.
Nice. Well, disc golf in general, and maybe I'm a little biased because I met Chris at his shop. And
at Gorilla Disc Golf.
At Gorilla Disc Golf, at the shop over in Seabrook.
Yep.
And we started talking, and then we started talking about fitness, and then he came and has been with us for some time over at the gym, and that's been really great.
Getting some personal training.
Yep. And I can tell you that disc golf, being someone that enjoys the sport and the game, it's really come a long way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but we played long time as teenagers, we played a little bit.
Yeah. We had 3 discs that we all shared, and we would go out to Jack Brooks.
Yeah.
And
you just fling them, right?
Fling them as far as we could.
Yeah.
We threw with all different arm angles and whatnot, just trying to figure it out.
And just having fun. And now I've been back at it for almost 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
And it's come a long way. Yeah. It's very legitimate. I heard that disc golf and pickleball are the 2 fastest growing sports in the world.
Wow.
I believe.
That's what I heard as well. That's now I got to add this to the conversation here is that I was in the shop one day and I look over and I see a guy I'm a BMX guy too, old school.
Yeah.
I'm a 50-year-old child, 50-year-old, 12-year-old. So we partner with a bicycle shop, Bicycles of Southside. Shout out to those guys. So I'm in the shop and I see a guy wheel in a 24-inch BMX and I go, oh, okay, cool. We can be friends, And I look, he drops it off. Then he walks over to the disc golf section and I'm like, Hey, okay. Hey, man. I'm
We can
Chris.
really be cool.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. Did we just become best friends? Hey, man, hey, I'm Chris. I own the place. If you need any help or whatever, man, let me know. I can guide you along, blah, blah, blah. And we start talking. And in the conversation, the bicycle guys go, yeah, Phil owns a gym down the street. And I'm huge on local business. You know, I'm a local businessman. He owns a gym. So we start talking a little bit. In that conversation, Phil brought up, you know, yeah, it's a private gym, personal training clients only. And then right then, to be quite honest, a wall went up. I'm like, I can't afford that. And then he replied with, hey, this is a model that's pretty unique and it's affordable personal training. And I'm like, my ears perked up. So my history is that, you know, I was always an above average athlete, and we'll go more into this here in a little bit, but I got away from it, got back into it, and fitness, we'll talk more shortly, but fitness was a big part in the change for me. And when I knew, point of story here is that I knew how to work out, but not quite right. You know, I knew how to go in there and hit a couple things and get a swole on and this and that. And I had made some changes that way, but I knew that I didn't know how to work out properly. So I was interested in this. And the barrier for entry, he made it easy, you know, affordable and easy. And you know, I'm not here to plug super OTG, but I am, man. I'm telling the truth about this. That model was super, super attractive to me because, again, it made personal training easy for me. So
yeah, Phil's really you've really tweaked and changed and pivoted and grown the business model that you operate. There's none around here that are like that I'm aware of. That run it just like you run it. It's kind of your own thing.
Yeah, and it took a long time to morph into that, but the goal here is to get people that when they hear personal training wall goes up, well, how can I help them get that wall down?
Right.
And be accepting of, you know, learning and taking guidance in the right direction and get results, enjoy it, and have fun, right? And change their life from a health and fitness perspective.
Super cool.
You know?
Well, you say help change your life. Chris, you kind of touched something a minute ago. You said that you were into it and you kind of got away from it, and it was pivotal in bringing you back out of whatever it was. So with whatever details you're comfortable sharing, go ahead and tell us about that journey a little bit.
My life is an open book. There are some things that I won't go into, but I will go into a lot. I don't have anything to hide really, but the nuts and bolts of this is that I was always, you know, I was a real smart kid. BMX, taekwondo, skateboards, dirt bikes, kickboxing, you know, go out and have a blast and blah, 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 come home and eat fish sticks and macaroni and cheese with mom and dad.
That's what I'm talking about.
And eager, grew up on that. Yeah, like, and then eager to go to sleep and see what happened the next day. And then somewhere around 15, 16 years old, you know what, I started drinking beer in high school with my friends and stuff. And then over about the next 2 years, I noticed that some things that were important to me became a lot less important, and the beer and the other things that went along with it became a lot more important. And it was unbeknownst and it was unwillingly for sure, but I saw that shift, and then I kind of realized that it affected me differently than it affected a lot of other people. You know
what, the substances?
The substances, beer. Like my buddies, we'd go have a few beers and they would go home. You know, and I was the guy that was running into the stop and go and running out with a 12-pack under my arm. You know, because I didn't realize it, but I had a stopping problem as the nuts and bolts. You know, I've been sober now. I got sober in 2009. I had a little slip in 2011. We'll talk more about this in detail, but I've been sober now for over 11 and a half years.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, hey, I'm bringing the applause on that, man. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's studio audience.
Well, thank you.
That's huge, man. How fitness came into this and how disc golf and how passion really played a big part in my recovery was that, you know, again, I was the guy, man, I was into everything, right? And how I started playing disc golf, me and my buddies, we would get a 6-pack of Busch Tall Boys. We had our own little personal coolers, and that's me.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, it's all good.
Don't worry about that. We're going to join Chris for his phone conversation.
The OTG podcast is phone from a live audience.
Yeah, that was the alarm to pick up my son. My wife's doing that, so I got to pick my son up from school. But
look at him. He's got hey, I got to go get my kid.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the early guy too. I compete with about 7 other people to be the first people in line at the school. You know,
alarms, Google Calendar, and I like what you just said. Phil and I, this is my best friend, since we were 9. Us two and probably my wife are the three most competitive people that I know.
Gotcha.
We want to win all the time. Whether it's walking through the grocery store, I can grocery shop faster than you.
Man.
Anyway, carry on.
So I got to add this. My wife, she is a pickleball junkie. She got into it about
disc golf.
about I don't know 9 months ago or so, a year ago, and she's just in it. And she's always trying to get me to come out there, and I've been a few times. It's pretty fun. I have too many other hobbies. One of her friends, she laughed. She goes, one of these guys out here goes, how come your husband doesn't play? And I go, well, disc golf is his thing. And the guy goes, oh, so he's not very competitive? Like, whoa. and she's like, he's a freaking amateur world champion and a professional player, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, back to the story. I was
not very competitive.
Yeah, like
you go to the disc golf tournament so that you can win.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think the general take is that, you know, guys go out and throw frisbees, which that's what I thought it was too. You know,
Right.
you go out
well,
and
that was us in high school, right?
Yeah.
I feel like pickleball came out like yesterday. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm with you now, man. Just like anything, professional cornhole, you know. Okay,
Yeah.
come on with
Dude,
it.
that's
you know?
hilarious.
I love it.
man.
So we all had these little coolers, man, with my own little stickers on them, and we all had our own. And we go to Almena Mall parking lot, and we would throw the freestyle frisbee. Just whatever it was, we were going to be the best at it, right? And we were all pretty good good at drinking, and the thing came along with it too. One of my neighbors said, "Hey, man, I see y'all throwing the frisbee out there. Y'all ever played frisbee golf?" And I went, that sounds kind of stupid, but you know, sure, let's go do it. Sounds great. Let's go. And I went out, and I was, you know, an egotistical, cocky 20-something and late 20-something, and I remember thinking, man, if it's got anything to do with frisbee,
I'm King Tut.
I'm the guy. You know, have you seen me throw the frisbee? Come on! And I went out and he put a disc golf disc in my hand, and I threw it, and I indeed was not King Tut. I was furthest from that, but it intrigued me. You know, I went, man, I can do that better, and I can do that better, and I can do it better. And I was there the next day and the next day, and you know, for 6 or 8 months, I was there a lot and loved it. You know, and I acquired a bag, some that I found, but you know, just went out there and hacked it, and I got better than my friends pretty quickly. You know, but I made some friends in the disc golf community. We played together, and then, you know, fast forward while this is going on, there used to be a term. Everyone calls me Griff. It's Chris Vandagriff. Everyone's called me Griff, and there became a term over the next few years that. When you got griffed was whenever someone told you they were coming and they didn't show up. That was me.
Yeah, I've always heard of like a swindler type thing or something. Yeah, when people get griffed.
Well, man, hey, Vandagriff said he's coming. Like, you know, that's kind of a coin roll there because, man, I was drinking a lot. I got lost in the bars and the after hour stuff, and I started staying up for days at a time, that kind of thing. And
it was becoming a problem for you.
It absolutely became a huge problem.
Yeah.
You know, and I fought it for as long as I could, and I mean, I honestly ended up owing some friends of mine money, and I just and I got to a point where I was ashamed to see my own reflection in my friends' eyes,
right?
You know, and I'd done some things in here and there, and then it moved on to another substance, and that substance really got me, and I ended up homeless. You know, wow. I ended up living underneath a bridge at Monroe and 45.
So this would be late 20s.
This was in early to mid 30s.
Okay.
Early to mid 30s, 33, 34, 35 years old.
Okay.
Really just got lost, you know, and then I got in some legal trouble and this and that, and then some snowballs, and I ended up getting into, on the strong advice of my attorney, trying to stay out of a state jail facility. I ended up going into a treatment center in 2007. Now, when I went in there, these guys explained some things to me, and they pointed some things out, and there were some guys with experience, and you know, I can't go too much into that.
Yeah.
But these guys, they told me my story, and I latched on for a bit, but I just kind of wasn't ready, right? So I went into treatment to stay out of state jail. A year later, when I got out of state jail, if you can put two and two together, I went back to treatment. I just wasn't ready, and I tried it again, and then I left the place 3 different times.
Yeah.
Now, shortly after that, something kind of clicked to where I had started working out again. You know, when I was in jail, I started doing a bunch of push-ups, and I got... You know,
probably to fill the time.
Well, yeah, that you could go one of two ways. You could either eat a bunch of soups, or you could work out and do some things. You know, and I was always athletic and always did, you know, just thrived for that. But I had gotten so far away, and at this point, I had gotten down to about 155 pounds soaking wet, and then I got up to about 215 pounds just full of, you know, beer and junk, right? Mm-hmm. So I was, you know, somewhere in between that, just, you know, really unhealthy, but. Started doing a bunch of push-ups, started doing this and that, and when I got into recovery, it was, you know, I started trying to get involved in fitness, right? And it made an impact, but I wasn't committing to anything. Now, after the third time in treatment, Mom let me come live at her place, this and that. I kind of carried a job, but I couldn't stay sober. I was trying to stay sober on my own. I was making some of the meetings and stuff, and I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't give myself wholly to it. But in this time,
it's kind of intermittent at this point.
I was dipping a toe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was dipping a toe. In this time, I looked better. I felt better. I had gotten more into shape and stuff, and I started showing my face at the disc golf courses again. Now there were some new people out there, et cetera, this and that. And at this point, I was a good intermediate player, a low-level advanced player, right? And one afternoon, funny enough, my disc golf bag was in the pawn shop, and I had 3 or 4 discs in a Walmart bag with me. And I went out to McGregor Park. It's only a 9-hole now. It used to be a really great place, just south of downtown Houston. I went out there by myself, and a guy, I'm putting around a little bit, and a guy happens to walk up, and he goes, "Hey, man, you by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You want to play around?" And I said, "Dude, sure, absolutely," And we chatted for a little bit, and I'm, like I said, I'm a 50-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, and he was the same way, and we laughed, and we joked, and blah, blah, blah. And we played a round of golf. During that round, I mentioned something to him. I lied to him. I was like, "Man, I'm like 90 days sober, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Dude, I'm 6 years sober." Wow, So we had a lot in common. We laughed and we joked, and we became really close friends really, really quickly. And over the next, 3 or 4 or 5 months, it was, we talked every day. I lied to him a lot because I couldn't stay sober, and I didn't want to tell him the truth, that kind of thing.
Right.
And even the funny part is that, like, I would have a slip or something, and I would tell him about it like 2 weeks later, just to make him think I was being honest with him, kind of deals, because just anything to make me feel better,
Right.
Riddled with fear and insecurity and just, a shell of what I was, but I was kind of trying and kind of not. And what ended up happening was he worked for a roofing company, bid roofing jobs at a high-end roofing company. And I've been a carpenter forever, so he ended up getting me this job or something, and I owed him a couple $100. And I had this notion where as soon as I finished this fence job, I had $1,500-$1,800 check in my pocket, and I paid the guys that had worked for me, and I owed him a couple $100. And by no means I was going to cash this check, and I was going straight to give this to my friend before I had a chance to spend the money. You know what I mean? Because I knew me. And I walked out of the bank, and I called him, and the words that came out of my mouth, my old flip phone in a beat up 95 Honda Accord, I believe, or 85, I think. I go, "Hey, man." He goes, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" I said, "Hey, that money I owe you?" He goes, Yeah. And I go, "You want to meet me at the park tomorrow? Something came up." And I go, No, that's not what I want to happen, because I'm not going to be there tomorrow.
Right.
I'm going to be locked up in a hotel room somewhere tomorrow. And he said the most terrifying words I've ever heard. He goes, "Yeah, sure, no problem, man. I'll see you tomorrow." No, and it crushed me, because for a guy like me, I had drawn lines in the sand before, and I smashed through them, and I draw a line in the sand, and I had stopped drawing lines in the sand essentially because it felt so terrible every time I broke through them. Okay, I'm never going to do that again, and I'm never, ever, ever going to. But this time I drew that line in the sand, and I wasn't going to screw this guy over, and there I did. But in that, there was some magic that once that happened, and 3 or 4 days later, whatever it was, when I came to from this bender that I had just went on, I realized that I was no longer in control of myself, that alcoholism and addiction was going to make me do whatever it wanted me to do whenever it wanted me to do it. I realized that wholeheartedly. And 2 days later, I ended up back in treatment. I called these guys that I had known and said, "Hey, look, everything y'all told me, please help. Please help." I went in, and they took me back. They ribbed me a good bit, "Are you really done this time?" And I said, "Man, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to show you, And then here we sit. That was in 2009. Fast forward to about 2011, there were some things that became more important. And I struggled for a couple months, kind of about 2 years sober, fell off for a little bit, and then I just jumped back in and have been sober again since early 2012, February 6th of 2012. But the big thing about that was that, see, how I got involved in disc golf, why I own a shop today, why I run tournaments, and how this all evolved into me just loving a sport and passionate about a sport, was that when I got sober, I realized that it was because of a shared passion that me and this other guy had for the game. There was no other reason for me to be sitting at that park unless I was doing something by myself that I was hiding from everybody. You know what I mean? And I bumped into this guy, and we both loved the game. And from that shared passion fostered this new life for me, literally. So what I tried to do, part of recovery, was that I started giving back to the community around me. These other people that were running tournaments, I started jumping in. Hey, can I carry, what do you need? What can I do? Can I help you load? Can I carry some water? Hey, go grab that basket over there, and blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, they put a clipboard in my hand. Hey, you're here all the time. Will you run the mini tomorrow? Mini's a small one-round tournament. I'm scared to death of it. I can't speak in front of people. And sure, and then fast forward, I just kept doing it, nose to the grindstone, and for no other reason than to give back. And now fast forward, I just ran a Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series event with the top professionals in the world were here. And it met with rave reviews on YouTube and, all the some of the top course critics, and it was extremely successful and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, how did that happen? But in the meantime, so 2009, when I get sober, I go into treatment, and in treatment, I became not just serious about recovery, but it became serious about fitness as well. Now, remember, I'm an intermediate level, low advanced level player. The first tournament that I played, once I got sober, I played an intermediate, and I won by like 4 or 5 strokes. I moved from intermediate to the advanced level, and I got 12th out of 14th, out of 14 players. I was like, oh, God, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And now through this, I'm doing push-ups. I get a membership. I got another funny story about going to the gym over here by Alameda Mall. But I'm doing push-ups, and I'm working out, and I'm doing this stuff, and I'm training as best I can. I start researching stuff. And real quick, I went from that intermediate player to, well, the third tournament that I played as an advanced amateur player, it was the second as an advanced amateur player. Third tournament I played sober was a big B-tier event up in Spring at a place called Spring Valley, and I won the tournament. I was the top amateur there, and the people were calling me bagger, where'd this guy come from, and blah, 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 and I had no clue. I was elated. Like, you mean I won? Wow, awesome, that kind of thing. And in no uncertain terms, well, I'll fast forward on that a little bit too, is that I went on to win, 6 or 8 advanced tournaments that year. The next year, me and my buddy, Tim is his name, the guy that I bumped into on the disc golf course, he and I, super close friends, we traveled all over the state. We traveled all over the country playing the tournament, any tournament we could. I think we played 29 or 32 tournaments out of 52 weekends of the year. Wow. Amateur Worlds, we ended up getting, this was in 2010, we got second place in Amateur World Doubles together. The next year, we won Amateur World Doubles together. Wow. And then fast forward to about 4 years ago, I was the best man at his wedding, and he's still my closest friend in the world. Right.
Man, that's cool. Awesome.
So now the fitness aspect, when I got serious about fitness, that's how I went from a good intermediate player to a world champion amateur player. At Am Worlds, I was leading at one time, blah, 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 blah. 2012, I turned professional. Fitness just, I know this sounds cliche, but it benefited every aspect of my body. Putting was better, stamina better, throwing the disc better, controlling better, and just huge benefits all over. And not just that, but I had gotten to a point with, part of recovery is that, that there's not much that really rattles me anymore. I'm trying not to be dominated by fears or what anybody thinks or this and that, but I just felt better about everything. You know, life itself, carrying the groceries in got easier, and anything and everything. And it was just a fantastic deal. So carrying that forward, I don't know. Well, here we sit. I got to say this too, is that I got injured and I ended up getting a hernia from work because at this point I was 39-year-old Superman, or 40-year-old Superman. We used to build boat docks and set piers and stuff. And I've been in residential construction. I'm in industrial coatings now. But I was holding a 16-foot 2x12 steadying a hammer boat while we were setting a big pier. And and a boat came by and threw us off of our anchor, and I was like, I remember holding it, going, "Just hit it, just keep going. I got this." And I felt something tweak, but I ended up getting a hernia. I got hernia repair. During the downtime, I gained 10 pounds. Another year later, I got 2 more hernias as a result, and then another, 2019, I had the last of 3 hernia repairs and exploratory surgery, and I put on 10 pounds each time. Wow. Granted, that's where we transition into today when we're talking about physical performance. I knew how to go in there and do some curls, and I could do some squats, and I could hit my trap, or
bench
hit
press,
tricep,
chest and biceps.
Yes, absolutely, grr, Viking style. Give me this. And it wasn't anything to do with functional movement. My player rating, like we discussed, from being hurt, went from 990 down to like 936. I still played in the professional deal, and I'd win some and lose some, and it was a hurdle. I had to take 6-8 months off at some points, et cetera, et cetera. But and I got to plug Phil here. Is that since I have been working out with him, functional performance it has increased. Where I'm still struggling with losing the weight a little bit. I mean, I'm 50. It's not coming off like it used to.
Right.
But I feel like I'm replacing it. But, I mean, I told Phil this the other day. This year, I have played 4 tournaments, 3 in the Pro 50 division and 1 in the Pro 40s division. I won 2 of the Pro 50s tournaments by 8 strokes and 9 strokes in each one. The other one, I had to work at that tournament too, and I was pretty sore, still nursing some of the injury aggravates sometimes. The other one I just played last weekend in the Pro 40s division, and I was 1 stroke back of the winner.
Wow.
I was halfway through the tournament. I was in 7th place, 24 holes. Something shifted and said, man, just play your game. And I ended up in 2nd place, birdieing 8 out of the last 12. Wow. The result from functional fitness training has been that now at 50 years old, compared to when I turned pro at 38, 37, 38, I was a 990 rated MPO, men's professional open player. I'm throwing the disc better and with more control than I ever have. Yep. Because of functional fitness, because I'm engaging things and it's built a foundation. It's mind-boggling. Yep. I'm not throwing quite as far as I used to, but stronger, better, faster at 50 than I was before.
Yeah, so, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Taking care of your body, and you made several really solid points. Something that Phil and I talk about, and I'm gonna say we coined this. Maybe it's not really a phrase, but we say. Whenever your fitness is in check, whenever you're taking care of your body, that bleeds into everything else in your life. Carrying in the groceries. Maybe you're throwing a disc. Maybe you're hitting you're playing pickleball. Yeah. Maybe you're whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And these are just your career. Anything, everything that you're involved in improves whenever your fitness. And I think the opposite is also true when you're not taking care of your body and you're not taking care of your fitness. That will bleed into everything else. Everything else will become harder to do. You'll become not as good at everything else. And everything being anything that you may be into, whether it's your job or your hobby or your sport or whatever, right? So
yeah, they're an exact 180 because I think that your confidence goes down a lot as well, because
that's affected as well.
We all have that person inside of our heads that we want to be.
Yep.
And the closer we are in alignment to that person, the better you're going to be.
That badass that lives inside of your brain that you know you can be.
Yep. And when you're out of alignment with that voice in your head, everything is more negative.
Yeah. I think it's amplified when you're out of line. Now,
that's right.
I got to add this to the conversation too, is that I thought that it was going to be hard. Now at 50, I don't recover as well as I used to.
Right.
But I will fall off quickly, but I don't seem to struggle with getting back on the horse.
Yeah.
I can jump back in and pick it right back up quickly.
That's called an identity change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you're now, you transition from the type of guy that did X, Y, Z. And you even said it earlier, you grow up as, this is who I am. I was the person that went back for more. I was the person that lied to my friends. Well, you've left that identity behind you. And you are now the type of person that takes care of yourself.
Gets right back in the saddle.
And so when you do mess up, you're like, it's not a big deal. I'm the type of, I am. Exactly. That's not who I am anymore. Yeah, I am this person now.
Yeah. Sure. I got to add this too. When we were talking about everything in life getting better, one of my goals was I want to be able to roll around on the floor with my son. I'm 50, my son's 11, right? Mm-hmm. I was 39 when he was born, and it was getting to a point where I was like, man, I can't do stuff with him. And now, like, I'm bugging him. Come on, let's go, let's do this and that. And it's not just because of the iPad, which that does play a factor. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm like, man, come on, let's go. I was tired. Come home and sit on the couch and find reasons to not do it.
Yep.
And make excuses. And now it's, my wife, when she watches this, she's gonna laugh. But I enjoy taking the trash out.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, that gives me something to do. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go to the grocery store.
That guy gets 3/4. I'm taking it out.
Yeah. Not quite that.
Time me slow there, stopwatch.
Right. So
Yeah.
man, it's a pretty phenomenal deal. You know,
Yeah.
there's in the recovery world, we call it spiritual. We call it mind, body, and spirit. You know, we recover mind, body, and spirit, and it's the physical, the body part that I needed some help with. Just like I needed some help with the other things. You know, pointing in the right direction, and God, the results are fantastic.
I have a question. To be in that type of headspace, you said you called this guy and you knew exactly what you were going to say, but something completely different comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Looking back at that, like what's in your mind now? Do you feel like, how do you feel about that person? Because you're this person now. What, you know what I mean? And let me know if this is too much of a question or anything like that. But like, what do you feel now? And do you feel like it made you, are you a better person now because of that? Or, you know, do you just not align with that at all? Can you not even comprehend? Like what's going through your head when you think about that guy who thinks one thing, but for whatever reason, something completely different comes out of the mouth?
So the insanity of alcoholism and addiction, which is what that is that we no longer can think straight, really. It's not, you know, you'll hear some cliches around the recovery community that are, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, sure, but that's an example of insanity. You know, what I refer to insanity as the lack of proportion and the inability to think straight, right?
Right.
Like I can't, it doesn't. So when I did those things, it wasn't me in control. But I had to realize that something else bigger than me was in control, and what that was alcoholism. It was addiction. It was blinded, blinders on, controlled by something else. And unless you've been there, it's hard to understand. But you can almost relate it to food, where you don't want to eat, you don't want to, blah, 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 you grab the cupcake anyway, that kind of thing. Yep. But it's different. It's different in the aspect of, if I'm allergic to lobster, but every time I drink lobster, I end up, I end up in jail. Then I'm like, lobster? No thanks, man. That's easy. Cupcakes? Oh, no, thank you. But when it comes to drinking and stuff like that, it's different, because we can't. That's the insanity. And what happens with recovery is that we do become different people. That insanity gets eliminated, right? And
that identity's left behind.
Yeah, it's left behind. Now, what's important for me, and this is where I'm going to this, something important to me to remember, two things, is that it will come back if I'm complacent and I rest up on some things that I do. There's some maintenance that is required for recovery, and that doesn't, I'm the kind of guy that, man, I play disc golf. People drink beer and do other things all the time out there, and it doesn't faze me, because I am a different person now. But I can revert into that if I don't do those maintenance things.
Lives in you.
Yeah, well, it's dormant, know, and will remain dormant, inevitably, and until, if I had a friend once that goes, hey man, so you got to stay away from bars and stay away from this and that. And I said, no, not really. What I have to do is like be a good human and not tell lies and not be dishonest and sneaky and stuff, Yep. I have to live a good life, because if I do that other thing, those are the things that clouded me that I was hiding from, if we get into some of the psychology behind it. But,
domino effect in your mentality.
Sure.
You
certainly.
drink a little bit, and then you feel bad about yourself, and then so you lie about it, and then you feel bad that you lied about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the cycle with me, and this is what differentiates me from other people, normal people, that, you could go out and you could have a few drinks and you can come home and kick the dog, and that doesn't make you alcoholic per se. It makes you an asshole, for lack of a better word.
Right. But
it doesn't make you. But with me is that if I have one, I'm going to have a lot.
Right.
I am allergic to lobster.
Yeah.
I am allergic to that lobster, and the reaction that it has is that I'm going to have more. So the trick is how to not have one, and I couldn't pull that off for a long time. Without getting too much into all that stuff. But so now the mindset of that is that I remember that stuff graphically, just because I can sit in front of someone who's on the other side of it, and that person will, they'll look at me now and go, there's no way. And well, really, have you thought this way? Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever sworn? How those words ever came out of your mouth when they weren't supposed to? And these people, typically, if they're like me, they'll go, oh my God, how did you know? Like with fitness, like somebody like me comes in, and man, I can work out this and that, but I can't cross this hump there. I'm going to relate to someone who's been there and who's willing to jump into the fire with me rather than somebody who's just going to do this, blah, 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 you know? So that's, to answer your question, those are the couple aspects that those are a couple of the aspects of, one, the insanity is that it wasn't me, you know, but I had to realize that it was me doing those things and I was controlled by that. And then the remembering it, relating to it, I know that it's not me anymore, but my history and my past is my biggest asset when it comes to helping somebody out of the fire like that. So
sure.
Yeah.
Because if people know that you've been in the fire, you've been in the arena, then they're more likely to, I guess, for lack of a better word, allow you to help them, listen to you, take your advice. You can leverage that. That's a tool that you can leverage now.
Absolutely.
And I like that. That's a pretty cool way to think about it.
Yeah, and because you've been through these things, do you feel like, I guess with that, let's use the term addictive personality. Would you label yourself as that?
I don't know that. Addictive personality is kind of a contradictory term to me. Addictive personality, where am I more apt to, you know, eat too many cupcakes maybe, or am I, what makes me an addict and what makes me still alcoholic, even with, you know, decades, over a decade plus of being sober, is that I can't have that drink. So I have that allergy, right? So addictive personality, that's just one of those terms that I really can't identify with, you know?
Okay.
It's kind of, it's hard for me to describe, but I don't. If someone is more apt to, man, I spend a bunch of money on Amazon. Okay, so you're unable to control yourself. Like, maybe that does relate, but you know, I don't know.
I think it goes. So the addictive personality, I've thought about that term before. Yeah. It is kind of strange when you think about addictive personality. To me, you're implying that this person is more likely to become addicted to whatever it is.
Yeah.
And everybody has their thing, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has their thing that they like.
Mm-hmm.
Yours might be beer and mine might be cookies, right? And I can't have one cookie without having 15, and you can't have one beer without having 15.
Yeah.
So it's not apples to apples is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Chris might have an addictive personality with alcohol, but maybe he can walk past a platter of cookies, or maybe, you know,
it's a good point.
He won't get addicted to gambling or whatever, right? Whatever people may be addicted to.
Do you have the propensity? I think the question: do you have the propensity to, or the capacity to become overly indulgent in something? So,
that was going to be my thing. Is like, I think that addictive personality sometimes, because it's, you say addictive personality, it has this like negative notation, and I think that, you know, some people, I don't want to say I'm addicted to anything, you know, but it's just like, I think people throwing themselves deeper into, like, you know, their work, their fitness journey or whatever. It's like, man, I mean, it's like, you don't have an addictive personality, but you're up at 5 a.m. every day, and, you know, slamming down caffeine, and, you know, and going to the gym. And so it's like, I mean, I guess the thing is like, is it negative or positive is like one of the big,
it's pretty neutral.
It's probably neutral, and it really depends on you, because you know, to get all the things done, like look at your lifestyle now with the whole disc golf thing, between tournaments, shop, playing yourself, playing in tournaments, course design, you got a kid. Like, how do you get all these things done if you're not maybe addicted to all of them?
Somewhat addicted to
there's a level of addiction to get all these things done, right?
Do we call it, I mean, I think for me, I'm apprehensive about the word addiction in that, because
I understand,
it doesn't mean that the term's not applicable. It's just one of those things that stands out to me where I'm like, dude, am I addicted? Do I want to get up early every day?
Yeah.
Do I want, yes and no to go fishing? But so, you know, gotcha.
It depends on your thing, right? Whatever your thing is.
Let's go back though. What was your question in that question before we kind of got off?
Do you feel like you have a addictive personality, quote unquote? And if so, or if not, does it help you in your current lifestyle?
Golly. So, am I, I hear the question as, do I have a propensity to be compulsive sometimes?
That's fair.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I get off. It's funny. Like, I have toys now, whereas when I'm in active alcoholism and addiction many years ago, any things that I had this little invisible price tag on them, which told me how much I could get for them at the pawn shop whenever it was time.
And seen a lot of that.
Yeah, so that's funny enough. That's one of those things when I talk about it to someone who's in active addiction and stuff. They're like, wait, how did
Sean used to work at a pawn shop.
Yeah, I used to work at a pawn shop for years, and
Gotcha.
I would see a lot of that. We had I don't mean to sidetrack it or anything, but we had a customer, and their family also owned a pawn shop, and they had the nicest, coolest stuff that we'd ever seen, like old American rifles, knives, like you name it, bucks from like the 80s and 70s. And they're like brand new in their boxes, like commemorative axes and all this stuff and crazy guns that we hadn't seen in years. And this guy would always come in. Yeah, very personal stuff. And dude, this guy would come in, and when he was like when he was kind of on the bad, going through a rough time, he would always come in and just back the truck up, man. And he just has all this stuff. And then he would pawn it, get a bunch of money for it. And then his parents would just come get it right out for him. And it's like, but sometimes he came in looking bad, man. Like when he was going through it, you can tell he'd come in with the glasses on. He didn't want to look you in the eye. It was like the weirdest shit, dude. It was like, man, you hated seeing it. It's like, damn, man. It's like, I don't know. I was like, God damn, I hate that the parents but it's like they're dealing with it. It's not me dealing with it, but it's like you see it and it's like, God, that's rough to see. And it wasn't just him. He was just one person I could think of like off the top of my head, but you see it a lot in that industry, and it's kind of rough, man. It's kind of rough.
Chris says it makes you insane, man. If you if it
all this
takes you
stuff
over
was
like that.
it was super personal to people. People would pawn people's wedding rings and just lose them, and they're just gone for a fraction of the price. And I'm like, dude, that's insane, man. That's crazy.
One of the things that bugged me so much, and it hurt after the fact, was that I would go in and I had a mountain bike worth $1,000, and I get like $50 for it intentionally. Okay, I'm gonna get that back. And then I sold my $1,000 mountain bike for $50. But then thinking back, that hurt more too. Now I think I know how to answer your question here. Is that I will be apt to get on Reverb and buy a new guitar sometimes when I maybe shouldn't, but it's not the same as I'm not gonna not buy my kid's gonna have money in his school lunch account,
right?
There's a distinct line on here's what I should save and what I should spend and fund money over here, and sometimes it encroaches a little bit, But the line that it encroaches on is far away from the urgent line to where you know what I mean. So, I have perspective and a good gauge and a good meter now.
Right.
Yeah.
So do I play golf a little too much sometimes? Sure. Do I go fishing a little bit too much sometimes? The cupcakes at night sometimes. Do I stand in front of the thing and go, screw it?
Get a bite.
No, certainly, absolutely. But addictive personality, I don't know. I'm not sure. I know when it comes to drugs and alcohol, absolutely that there's
that's your thing.
Yeah, that's the line that I can't even encroach on. It would be literally insane of me to do that. I would have to be insane to pick up a drink, because I know what it'll do. The other stuff, man, I don't know. I've got my meter works a good bit better. Yeah. So.
I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, Chris, and we'll start winding it down here in a minute, but not to eat up anybody's day. But so your son's 11. Would you say that, I'm just thinking about your timeline, did him being born and coming around have anything to do with sobriety, with you wanting to make the change? Or was it something you had already done and then him coming around kind of solidified it? Or how did it? Well, would you say they're related?
Oddly enough, I'd gotten into recovery. He was born in late 2011, and I got sober. The real change happened for me in 2009. It was May of 2009. That's when I got in and said, hey, and met my wife. And funny enough is that when he was born was the off time. Whenever there's a few months between the 2 years that I was sober and my sobriety date now. He's born September 18th of 2011, and my sobriety date's in February. So there was a few months different there. Did it have anything to do with it? A a little, but not really, not how you would think. You know, the amazing thing about the insanity of alcoholism is that things that you would think would be impossible for someone to overlook, that wouldn't have an impact, they can't penetrate that wall of insanity. I'll give you an example. I was watching what's the show? Intervention. I was watching the Intervention show, and they had this, was beautiful 20-something-year-old girl on there, and she had two beautiful little kids. I think it was a little boy and a little girl, and she couldn't stop doing what she was doing. It was heroin, I believe. And the father, they were divorced now, but the father brought her into the into the intervention room, and said, "Look, you will not see your kids ever again." Had a history of her, doing and blah 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 blah. You will not see them again, court order form, unless you take this recovery, right? And she said the most insane thing I've ever heard. Even being in recovery then and knowing a lot about this, I was like, I wouldn't have been shocked by a million other things she said. But she said, "Can I have a minute to think about it?" And
it controls you.
And I felt that. I went, oh my God. And I still use that. I stay very involved in recovery. I won't go too much more into it than that, but I still use that because it's impact. Like, I remember that, I know
it really struck you.
Yes. And I know that I've made choices like that. Or I say made, it wasn't me, but I know that there have been times when I knew it was the worst thing I could possibly do, but there's that lurking, apprehension, like, maybe.
Thinking about it. Like she said,
give me a second to think about it.
I almost applauded her for verbalizing that.
She was,
how honest can you be?
She was kind of saying what maybe a lot of addicts in that situation were thinking. She was just vocalizing it.
Now to answer your question, my son, looking back, the last time I did it again, 2 or 3 bender, I came back and I'm like, oh my God, I got everything to live for, and I had a house and the job was well, and it wasn't as bad as it was before, but it kind of made it worse because I got everything to live for and I still can't. It had a part in it for sure. When I stopped and took a look around, and man, I got everything, and I got to be here for this kid. I got to be I got to be the father that he needs. Yeah.
He was one of the puzzle pieces that kind of.
Absolutely, he was one of the puzzle pieces. The catalyst, maybe not, but all cumulatively into the whole piece of it, the whole pie. Was like, man, do this, and never look back. And one of the things that I'll share in Rooms of Recovery is that, there's kind of a myth that, the recovery's got to be the most important thing, which it kind of does, but that recovery aspect includes every aspect of my life. It includes my wife, my son, my business, my job, and my employees. I work as a coatings inspector a day or 2 a week and this and that, but disc golf in the shop is my primary vocation. But I'm of the opinion that fitness and coming over here to do a podcast with you guys, whatever's in front of me, that's the most important thing.
Right.
I do my best to be present, and whether that's
a pretty cool mentality to
sure, I think so.
Fully do what you're doing, and then fully do the next thing.
This I adopted the mentality of whatever's in front of me deserves my attention. Now, that doesn't mean I have to do everything that's thrown in front of me, because that's a lot. But
still have to pick.
Yeah, whatever's next. Hey, I got an appointment with this guy. And I applaud Phil for this, man. Is that every time you walk in the gym, hey Chris, what's going on? And I'm in there, and somebody else walks in, and he grabs him and he engages them, and he makes them feel important. And I'm like, cool. That's how I try to treat all the aspects of my life, and recovery certainly in there. If I got a guy I'm working with or being available, then that's all on there, but it's on this even plane, and then somehow it just gets sorted out for me. So
super cool, man.
Yeah.
So at the very least, so go back to the original question. Your son has greatly benefited from your transition to sobriety, because you definitely wouldn't have been able to lead him very well in the previous state, right? So either way, no matter what the catalyst was and no matter what all the puzzle pieces were, I'm here to give you a round of applause, Chris, because
thank you.
You dominated something that
I got the studio audience.
It's a pandemic in itself, man.
Oh my God.
My father, he's dead now, was an alcoholic, big time, and he never did kick it. Matter of fact, it was his demise. So, it's one of those things that, man, when somebody beats it, you don't overlook it. You say, man, that's a great accomplishment, man. So hats off to you, brother. Anybody else got anything, man?
Same thing as Daryl. I just, like, when I was telling the guys that, we were going to have you on the show today, and, kind of putting together the premise of kind of what we wanted to get across from today, the short and sweet version was that this is someone that found something, one thing,
a passion that he found on the disc golf course with that gentleman that you spoke of, and
life took a 180 because of this one thing. And, I love disc golf. It's a sport that, that I have a lot of passion for, cause it helps get people active, right? It helps people get outside. You can do it alone or with friends.
Compete.
You can compete or you cannot compete. It's up to you. Like, you can have fun with it. It's
free.
It's free.
Yeah.
Did we mention it's free?
Walk up on a course and
and you just go,
like regular golf, which can be highly expensive.
Very expensive, but the point is that, finding the passion in, if anyone's listening to this, it doesn't matter what that passion is, as long as it's not drugs and alcohol, right? But, whatever your passion is, for me, it was fitness. For Sean, it was photography. For Daryl, it was fitness a lot too, I think.
It was being fit, yes.
A lot of it was fitness as well. But the point is that each of us in this room found something and turned our lives around.
Yeah.
Because of a passion for one thing. And we can each come here and share our story. And I just think that yours is very powerful because nothing had a lock on our lives the same way it did with yours. You were a different person. Yeah. And in the weight loss community, we like to talk about getting a new identity as well. But there's no other better example than substances.
Right.
Sure. That help, that change who people are, like you just said. And I just think that it's an amazing story, and I want people to hear your story about how a passion for one thing can turn someone's life around, from being homeless under a bridge,
literally,
have a single conversation with someone on a disc golf course, and now this is your career.
Yeah.
This guy builds disc golf courses for a living.
It's amazing.
Right?
Owns a shop.
Yeah. Sells.
I'm sure you give lessons, Chris. Yeah.
Not so much anymore, but I have.
Yeah, that was used to be a thing, kind of.
Sells pieces of plastic and throws them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it all started on a course, and now it's ending with I don't know. I just think that it's a cool thing.
And another thing that I think is coming full circle here is you were saying, man, if we can get Chris's story out there and it helps somebody. Mm-hmm. This, again, Chris touched it a minute ago. Or earlier in the show, this would be Chris leveraging his past as a tool to help somebody else, right?
Yep.
So, all of us, right? We've all made changes in our lives because of a passion that, like you just said, but Chris leveraging this tool that he now has. So instead of it being guilt or shame or whatever, or people wanting to cover it up, Chris says, no, while it may not make me proud, I can use it for good, right? So, that's my hat is off to you for that, Chris. And yeah, man, keep sharing your story. Keep doing what you do. Keep working out at OTG.
Yeah,
for sure.
Keep winning disc golf tournaments. I love to go play. I like to be outside. I like to hang out with my friends. I like to compete, but I'm terrible. So I'll live vicariously through you and Jeremy. That I know another apparently pretty good disc golfer, Jeremy. So y'all three will be the ones that I'm like, yeah, and then every now and then I'll throw one into the tree.
Gotcha. I want to say this is that I'm a humble guy. I wasn't always, for sure, and I'm not anyone special, but there's a unique story. There's some things that happened to me, and when I look around and see them, I'm amazed. I'm as amazed as anybody. How the heck did this happen? And the nuts and bolts were nose to the grindstone. How can I be a better human? How can I... What do I need to do? How can I be helpful to people? And then I pop my head up around every now and again, and I look around and I'm amazed. And then I remember, how did I get here? And then I'll go, oh yeah, and I'll put my head back down and keep working towards it. That's the nuts and bolts. So, these guys, and just if anybody's listening, if anybody ever wants to reach me, man, you can find me pretty easy.
So that's the last thing we're going to get into, or one of the last things we do. How can people support you, get a hold of you? Obviously, they can come into Gorilla Disc Golf in Seabrook. the storefront. But if you want to plug the address, if the social media, anything that you do, contact information, whether it's a phone number, email address, whatever you wanted to put out there, man.
Gotcha. So email address, chris@gorilladiscgolf.com. You can find the Gorilla Disc Golf community group. It's just titled Gorilla Disc Golf on Facebook. There's Gorilla Disc Golf Online, which is our online store. We have a Instagram as well. And there's the Gorilla Disc Golf Online Facebook. So 3 things. The shop itself, Gorilla Disc Golf Shop, SHOPPE, just to be unique.
Yeah. Shoppy?
Shoppy.
The old school
Shoppy.
way.
We heard a bunch of that, like just to be unique.
Yeah,
So,
I like
stands out in
we're
people's
on
mind.
Google. We're on Google. We're actually opening our second shop in Richmond. Out near the Jones Creek area sometime next week, I believe, and we're entertaining a third, and I won't tell you guys where that's at quite yet.
Mystery.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get you back on the show and we'll talk about it.
I'm with it.
I'll say that Chris's Facebook group, and everybody's a part of a lot of Facebook groups, right? These days, it's just one of those things. That Facebook group is one of the most interactive, live, friendly places for anyone that would be interested in disc golf. I mean, he told me about it a time ago, and I was like, oh man, another Facebook group. When we first met, and I was like, all right, well, let me go join it. And I'm telling you, like, it's a real community of people in there in the whole Houston area.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in Houston and you're interested in disc golf, like that Facebook group, people talk about all the courses. They talk about the weather. They talk about lost discs without names on them. Just all just a great group of guys in there.
When a new guy
and girls.
When a new guy or girl jumps in, everybody just wants to help. Now, since you said that, let me plug it. Now, there are a couple disc golf shops in the area, and I try to be a friend to all of them. I try to promote them all. I think it's a big community. You've also got the Houston Disc Golf, just like it's spelled, Houston Disc Golf Group. That's people up in Houston. You've got Northside Chain Gang. There's a Spring Valley store up in Spring. There's Cycle Works down in Lake Jackson, and there is the Darts, Discs, and Games up in the Spring area too, and then Rick's Darts and Games out on the west side. So any Disc Golf Houston Facebook groups are all kind of interchangeable, and most of them, for new players that want any kind of information, just pop in. Please don't be scared. We are super welcoming. We realize that once COVID hit, we kind of crossed a hump to where disc golf has become more acceptable, I guess, more mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, mainstream.
And we just love to have you come play, share the passion with us for sure.
Yeah, certainly, man. Well,
Nice.
if nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and take this out. Chris, thanks for coming on, man.
you bet.
Y'all at home, contact Chris. Dude, it's free to go play.
Yep, it's free.
Discs are not expensive, and you only need a couple. Check it out, man.
Yeah, you could throw the same disc as the pros for like
the
$20.
very least,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can get outside and get some exercise and some sunshine.
That's right.
At the very least.
Heck, I'll give you one. If you want to start your brand new, come see me. I'll
Look
give
at
you
this guy. He runs a business that depends on selling discs, and he's going to give you one.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, y'all guys check out Chris. Chris, thanks again. Keep leveraging that tool that you have in your tool belt. And we'll catch you on the next show, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit up Chris, Sean, Phil, myself, and always listen in every Tuesday and Friday.
There you go.
Very nice.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I say that was a good one most Fridays.
Every Friday's a great one
It's
for
the best
sure.
one yet. It's the best one yet.
We really do get better and better.
Keep practicing that intro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go get it.
well, I'm gonna-
It's like popcorn reading.